Okay, yes, sorry, right. We are, yeah, all right. Fine, that's fine. This is cut from the Big Bang. Thank you. Yes, if you get some questions, put them in the chat. But I've got a question from Signal to say, they acknowledge it was unlikely to come up, but like if someone wants to talk about file, I want to talk about like what would an AQA section D question asking you to create an ANT subclass would look like. And Dominic Abu 5133 is asking about the section C. You have the section C from Zigzag. Should I do all of them or do they get repetitive? I would advise you do all of them. Frankly, it is good practice. And if you've limited time, like doing your flashcards and checking out your basic, what is encapsulation, inheritance, polymorphism, composition, and aggregation. There's no aggregation in this one, it's all composition. What does that mean, etc. This is kind of like basic book knowledge that you can just kind of like rote learn, and that pays off because there's at least however many marks section C is on it. So I would say, yeah, doing those section C, Zigzag, if you've got them, is really good. I do not have the paper. I can make predictions about the paper. Right, let's have a look at files real quick. So I'm going to start putting it at 333. Okay. File access as a section B. What I mean by this is, okay, we're not going to get files in section D. And because it's too complicated, you would need for each, because the data is very structured thanks to OOP, it means that now you need to treat on each of the classes needs to have a method to serialize it to a string, and then you need to wrap this to write like potentially 3 files plus 1 for the whole simulation. It's a nightmare. What you would do instead is like, let's assume that we have a new kind of a section B, type question that asks you to we want to take names into a database. The program, write a program, or WAP, no, a program that asks the user for first then last names of students, repeats until the user enters stop. No. A blank input. Oh, you go. You might have a problem with if you put one first name and you put a blank input on the last name, you're gonna have an issue. Repeats and then write the lot to files dot students dot CSV. Write the data as comma separated records to student.csv. Right, that's the brief. Okay, let's go. We are gonna do first is equal to input first name last. This is how we would read the names. That feels sensible. Last. I know I'm going to need this, so I'm starting here. It's okay to start your code in the middle and work outwards. For me, it kind of makes sense. I know that you could like, well, maybe I should actually do it properly and draft it in common. So once you've got this, sorry, what am I going to do is, yeah, sort of like initialize. Yeah, I want to initialize a DS for students repeatedly, fill it with data, write from user, break condition, and then actually I'll write to file. Zigzag indeed sell for thing. Moon FDC, the section D questions are in the first stream. It's the last bookmark in the description. I said the first stream, the first live class, sorry, last Friday stream. It's always the same, like there's some input validation, the 8 and the 12 question mark, but I think 8 could be something that allows you, like requires you to know where the data is without creating new objects. So something like statistics, like, you know, like I did a made up one, which was like tallying up all of the food. Where's the food in the simulation? Is it on the ground? Is it in the nest? Is it on the ants being carried by ants? Something like that. It could be, you're right, it could be a 12. And you definitely have stuff that will involve subclasses, maybe a subclass of ant, maybe a subclass of pheromone, who knows. I think, and that's why today I'm also going to do a non-subclass in section D. Let's get back to my section B, so it's nicer for the people on the replay. Not there's much time to replay that, to be fair. But let's do this. So the data structures for students, I'm going to say students. And then while not stop. We know this, right? While not stop. First and last. Weirdly, first is being but not last. Oh, maybe first is protected. If this is the empty string, we break out of the while. We say stop. Stop. The papers are the same. Jack MC Mullen 5703. The point is that the papers are the same across all 4 languages supported by the board. That's the joy of this code. Stop becomes equal to true, but I'm not even going to use this. This is just for, you know, don't get that right. Here, if last is blank, right? You've messed this up. If first equal, you need to get that right. This is going to keep on reading them, and once I've read both, I want to remove the white space here. I want to students, thank you, dot append, and I'm going to make a list with first and last. Not lambda. Ooh, I wanted to, I want to vibe code myself a lambda calculus game. There's a really good game on Steam called Functional. It's only a $5. Please get it. I mean, yeah, you shouldn't be afraid of recursion or functional programming. Appends first, last. We're putting this into the data structure, so each of them as we do, and once we've got this, that's the break condition, that's done. Let's have it like in the right place. Break condition. And then let's write to a file, so we're going to say f equal open students what dot csv comma, yeah, thank you for this. I mean, this is where, like, not all these are born equal, but w will do. And in okay, there's a function called there's a read lines. I'm not so hot on the writing. So okay, for s in students, my line is an f string, I guess, with s bracket 0, a literal comma, s bracket 1. I don't know if there's a specification standard for comma separated values, if there's a final comma. I think final comma is a bit neater, because then you can just append that it's kind of like, you know, it's symmetrical, or, you know, whatever, but shouldn't matter too much. That's the line, and I'm going to say f dot right line. So I could have done right lines. I'll show how to do right lines in a second, but just right line, and this is going to write them line by line, and then f dot close. Don't forget to close your file, and that should do the job, I guess. Okay, foo var fab bar and fob bear. I don't like that it did that twice. Why? Okay. Oh yeah, of course. Okay, cat students. Okay. I see what I've done wrong. You need to, I guess, like this has the last one's not gone in as well. Okay, so right line doesn't actually write. You know, you need to manage your line breaks yourself, I guess. And something was broken here. And break, yeah. I should. Well, it's not like. Reading writing file that shows up on like the GCSE at Excel I was telling you about, but then that's a bit of a different animal because like it's the full thing is coding. They've never tested it. The problem with files is that, you know, in order to test it, because like you're not marking, Excel can do it because they also get the actual code files and resulting data files and mark those. AQA will take screenshots of the code and the tests. So the problem with files is that, you know, in order to test it, you also need to do the whole other side of reading the file. So I'd say like it's unlikely, it's too spicy for what we're doing here. But this is just, I think this was someone asked, and they acknowledge on Signal this wasn't likely. But like I don't know what's with my break condition, but let's continue as we are going. First A, I've got A, B, and then C, D. Yeah, I don't know why this... Okay, that's a little bit better. That's better, I'll take it. I mean, my thing is not like... I don't understand why it's... Oh no, I just need to do continue. Is it breaking out of the if? Is that the problem? Yeah, continue will just kind of go over that and then run again. A, B, C, D. No, still not working, but hey, that's the thing. Section B predictions are not, you know, they have common features in that you will need a loop, you will need some variables, you will need to kind of, you know your way around passing a string. Like even in the stuff where it's kind of input validation, you'd have to kind of iterate over the various ASCII codes in 2023. Yeah, I mean, in fact, yeah, I mean, I think the chat is being sorted. So not gonna worry so much about my break condition, but there is a write file. So if instead of doing this, instead of doing this, I am going to do f.write lines, and write lines will take a list, and then I'm going to say this. I want a list of this expression for, shoot, need this to be an F string for, what's the problem here? For S in students. And why is this not working? I don't understand why my exit condition is... Dominic Zabu 5113 is asking, should I memorize Python in built-in function to help for section B? I'm like, either you know them or you don't, or you need to know of their existence. It depends which one you're talking about, but like it would be good that if you know, I don't know, like it depends what kind of, like, I mean, what kind of Python built-ins are in the skeleton code. You get, you know, the syntax of the loops and the ifs and the how to access arrays and kind of loop syntax, but things like odd and char, that came up in 2023. What else could there be? There's stuff that's practical to access lists in sections, but again, that's kind of Pythonic, so you know that would give a Python an unfair advantage. But you can't use, like, you know, if they want an average, you need to kind of work it out yourself. If you use a built-in like average, you can't use sorted, right? That's the point of it, is like they ask you to write the algorithm yourself. Okay, so what's the problem here now? Let's run it again, just to see if it works. With write lines, C, D. Okay, I have my problem here, and then if I now cat, that has also written A, B, C, D. Cool. Okay, well let's do creating a new on, because this is what we're talking about in the chat at this point in time. I can see if I can close this, and the paper one live string. We are at 1711. The section D on the end subclass, but let's specify it like an AQA one, right? Okay, let's do this a little bit seriously. So let's have a secd sub-ond.py, which is, why is this in here, not in past papers? Let's have it, but let's have a look at past papers though, because, okay, so 23 was das Ton, 24 was symbol puzzle. I want to check out like what kind of new class, what does a kind of new class section D looks like, because it's like, here we go. Here we go. So this is a new class type question. We want a new types of cell. It has some properties of the timer that uses the thing. Countdown cell. So they could have a you know, an aunt that lives only for 10 days, right? There's not much point in this, but making the old aunts die is also a way. There would be a way of balancing the simulation. This has value in the simulation, but this is a good way. This is a good, perhaps the one of the 12 marks, or maybe the 8 marks, is something that requires you to know where things are in the code without, you know, without having to create new objects and change the class structures. And then there's, so that, you know, there's the creation of the class. You need a constructor, specifically in that instance. There's a method for the stuff that you need to do, and then you integrate your class into that. So I can't remember the flying on. So like something like this would be, we want a I can't make them move twice as big. I can't give any advantage to the aunt. Let's do a, like a, the point of the flying aunt, what's helpful about this, let's do a flying aunt class, flying aunt that teleports basically. Inherits aunt, gets say a 5% chance. Okay, let's put some line breaks in here, otherwise we're not gonna get there. Inherits aunts. Oh, it continues that as a comment anyway. Gets 5% chance of spawning if spawning an aunt. So like the queen is 2%, this should be a 5%. The marks are distributed between the 4 sections, like half and half on A, B, and C, D. And A and D are the same size, and B and C are about like, it's kind of 2/3, 1/3, like B and C had the same mark values as well. But what's interesting is that the time that are advised are completely disproportional. So you're expected to move faster on the paper question and slower on the code question. So it gets, we specify the class kind of like, you know, the sort of functional specification, will teleport to a random or a 20% chance to spawn a nest, then die. Okay, so this is actually, I might put this on its own new line, right? Because like making an on die is a whole affair. So then they would specify, they would say, create a new flying aunt class inheriting aunt. Override the, well, they probably wouldn't use that word, but like create, yeah, override, no, you would have to like implement actually, because it's an abstract, implement the abstract. Get cell whatever to move to, right? Get next cell to move to, whatever, the important one, I'm gonna say. Yeah, I should probably have copied the original code as well. Not the. I need to stop opening the C#. I'm sorry. This is just way too. It's just as well. There's just so much white space, so many curly braces. That's the problem with curlies. Okay, where's my original? The OG, actual original, that will do. And no, I don't want that. Yes. No one still removes it. And then take all of this and take it to this one. Okay, back home. Who's Bison? I'm not plugged in. I know that like YouTube influencers are a problem in GCSE English because there's this whole game of prediction, and it's true. We just want kind of some divine value. So they will tell you, the point is that AQA will specify very like precisely what they want, and in fact this maps the mark scheme. This is what I'm saying. If they tell you create a new class that inherits that, you go like new class inherits that, boom, that's a mark, guaranteed. You don't need to know the skeleton code. The one I just looked at, like this one, you don't need to know what like skeleton puzzle this one was, not that's done. This is skeleton puzzle. You don't have to understand how skeleton puzzle works to just go, well, they want to count and sell this subclass of the block cell class, sure. They want a constructor in that one for another mark, sure, I'll do that, right? Boom. You've not opened the skeleton code all year, you walk in, you get 2 marks. Because you know, assuming you know how to make classes and subclasses, and like at least find your way, you know, where to, in Python and indent it right, and not like accidentally nest it into another one, right? But, which hopefully you may have gotten from your project, if you did it in the language you're doing the, you know, actual paper. And where's my, so where was my yeah, we'll need to update and then oof. Maybe for spawn nest, like create found nest. I don't know. Spawn nest. Because the thing that puzzles me, right, that in here, someone mentioned this as the example, right? Okay, so here, simulation class, classic, as a setup nestat, which is fine, right? Because that's called an add food to sell. Because this is called in the setup, which I'm sorry, this is the original version 1. Now this has now been changed slightly. Where is it? Like wherever. No, this is the new one actually, isn't it? No, this is the stuff that's changed in version 2, but that's the old one. The point is that this is when we have setup nestat, and this is also when we have add food to sell. Now, why would those be public? I'm assuming they are public. Am I going to open the C# again? I'm guessing, I know we get some C# in the room. I don't know. Surely that's kind of static void. Yeah, of course. You're a static void. Simulation protected, list protected, public, simulation constructor, right? Fair enough. Public void. No, a good sign, right? Why are those methods public? They're only called in the constructor of simulation. Or are they? Let's just kind of check real quick. 2 or 3? 3? Oh, me. Def. Oh, setup 1, setup if there's more. Yeah, okay. Add food to sell. Oh my god, that's the 8 marker, or at least one of the 12s. Of course! Of course! The problem currently with the simulation is that you're always going to run out of food. Like the simulations always die. There's no way of reinjected food back in the simulation. Well, that's your next question. Okay, remind me of doing it, but like I think I've got like, there's definitely not the heat map. This is like self-indulgence. This is for my fun. Add food to sell from menu with using getref. Yeah, right. That's either the 8 or that's probably one of the 12s. there's a, yeah, and so because of this, there's another 12 that will use setup nestat. I mean, unless they're distractors. There's some latency because now I'm not in the loop anymore. I don't get like the paper on the day, so I need to wait. Like they've only just put the 2024 one on Physics and Math Tutor, so I don't even know. But yeah, it feels like when you get some methods that are public that have no reason to be public in the existing code, it means that you're gonna have tasks that will involve stuff outside of this class to call those methods, like adding food to sell something or some kind of subclass that sets up a nest like the flying aunt. So we were back at the flying aunt, and now we're back to specifying thing spawn nest that calls nest, setup nestat, right? That might be too specified, right? And then you're gonna have to so there's 20% chance of 5% chance. I mean, I'm kind of like over specifying it, but like the truth will be somewhere in the middle. Definitely, you will know which classes to do. You will know which methods to do. And you know which methods to update as well, and specifically how. Jeremy, should I be watching your live or watching your playlist right now? I think like the fact that you can ask questions is you should probably be watching live, because ultimately I'm retreading old ground that's already in the playlist, and this is more interactive. Obviously, you should probably be coding those tasks, but then, I'm not going to be there forever. Yeah, it will be, I think, so call me Heisenberg, I guess. So it's actually underscore call me Heisenberg. There was already a call me Heisenberg. Walter White is saying, wait, sir, can you clarify it? So you think it will be flying ant and adding food? I'm not thinking anything. All I'm saying is we have those two methods that have absolutely no reason to be public because they're only called in the setup constructor of the simulation class and happens to be public. So this one, having something where you'd have a menu item and allow you to add food to sell, also has value to the simulation, because then the simulation can run for longer, the scientist can inject sell thing. And the other one is like, well, the flying aunt, there's a setup nestat, that could be something, that could be a menu, could be a this is more likely than the other way around. But could you have like a menu? We want a menu option to set up a nest in a given place. This is also a science. Yeah, yeah. This is also like this could be this. We think of the flying on because Zigzag has anchored us into thinking, well, that's a nice end subclass and it has a specific function. The main problem of the end subclass is like, well, what can you think about, right? And you could have a wandering queen, or we could be asked to have, that's another one, we could have something that like, oh, the actual queen, as if there's another queen in the nest, the queen might leave the nest and set up its own nest. That's more likely. It's not a subclass, this is logic, like 12 mark value of logic. That could be something like that. That could be a reason why setup nestat is public. But the point is, you will have tasks that will call those methods, because that's probably why they're public, unless it's a really sneaky distractor, because AQA knows that we're all doing this. Well, I think we weren't until like I started doing a YouTube channel, or not suddenly as publicly. But that's the general vibe. You have to look at Wikibooks, they do their predictions as well. Like everyone is kind of like, gossiping about this. And that could be, if I was the board, I would also put stuff in the code that like is gonna throw people off, right? Like it's also a game to them. Yeah, Skylar was insufferable, but like on purpose. I've long thought that I had a specific, well, now it's in year, oh god, it must have been until year 13 this year. The problematic, well, it was problematic to like the whole like staff of the year, but not with me. Year 9, that I'd imagine I would reconnect with to do a cybercrime when he was kind of like probably in his 20s. So we can do a cybercrime together, like a sort of, digital computing version of Breaking Bad, because it was naughty cybersecurity wise. So always the get nest and cell. Why this is kind of necessary for that, right? So the ons and the ons and the nest are only linked via the nest row and nest column of the on. It doesn't have an explicit reference of aggregation. Anyway, so that would be 5 steps of spawning, and also makes the flying ant die. Have we got everything we need to do? Something like this, right? So let's go and take it. Now, like the actual implementation of the flying ant starts now at, wow, quite a bit later, 30 to 40. Okay, so now we have the question actually doing the above. Now that we have, I've explained how like an AQA question will tell you, you know, that's the brief, that's what the customer wants, like what we want, how we want the program to behave. And this is the technical specification, which is going to be quite detailed with which classes, which methods, etc. So a new flying ant class inheriting ant. I'm going to go class ant. I'm going to put it right below so I know what's going on. Right, you'd see there's a lot of like stuff in the ant class, like I could move randomly, to be fair, but choose, yeah, this is taking those, this has defined these two, expecting something, so we're going to need something a bit more polymorphic. Ooh, so class flying ant inherits ant colon, that's one mark. It has a constructor. Now this is where I should have maybe turned off the auto init underscore, right? And then you need the self. What is it going to have? It needs to, why is this not picking up on the, maybe I have disabled the, so self starts row, self starts in column, right? It still needs to have a place to be born and know which nest it belongs to. That's the sig, sorry, that's the sig. That hasn't changed. Actually, we don't even need anything because we can call we don't even, do we? I think this is kind of slightly pointless here. I don't, I mean, yeah, okay, so we need, yeah, so we need basically this. Right, yeah, I don't have, you won't have the auto, you may or may not have like the autocomplete allowed, probably not, but like the point is you will have like what you want to do here, and this is like flying, yeah, fair enough. So, and we have a def spawn nest. So the problem to make the on die, you might need a delete specific on, so I'm just gonna, suddenly this is balloon into like an 18 mark thing, but like this could be the superset of all the stuff you could get. In order to have an ant dying, you will also need to create a, right? This is how we're gonna use that. This is gonna keep the encapsulation simpler. Otherwise, you need to pass like a whole bunch of stuff back and forth. So my nest, my class flying, yeah, 388. I don't give a flying ant. So it's going to take the simulation object, which is so the parent is being composed to. It takes a reference to it, so you can call stuff on it, and this is going to call simulation dot setup setup nestat. So see, for instance, knowing the shortcut to go to a specific line when you're editing a long bit of code and you want to flick back and forth, this is kind of helpful. It's Control G in Visual Studio Code. Setup nestat. It annoys me. I hope this is like that. And what does this take? Oh my god, I can't even live without. Yeah, sorry. set up nest at. Okay, row and column. 388. Set up nest at. We set up the nest at. What? The row? What? Well, self._row. Self._column. This neatly sets up a nest as this thing, and what we're going to call, who are you going to call? Simulation.kill one ant. What did I call it? Up to the top. Kill ant. Self. You just pass the ant object. Of course, we haven't defined this yet. Let me just go back to the top. Done that. Done that. Makes the flying on that. Well, I'm going to need to create one of these in the class simulation. Where do I put it? Probably at the top, right? Because I can keep an eye on it. After the constructor, def kill. So this is good because I guess to showcase how you kill an ant, self and an ant. Can I like type hint? Like seriously? Is it like that? Yes, thank God, right? You can type hint, which is fairer to Python because all of the other languages are strongly typed. So you get some C# people in the house, in the chat. That's a good one. Diva6802 can say F12 to get the function definition if it's in the same class, but I've got the opposite problem, is that I want to know the name of the function spelled correctly to do it. Killont, this, I'm going to make a note of the timestamp for the chapter, because this is at 3852, how to remove stuff from the list. How to kill an ant / delete a pheromone. So for those of you that have not been regular viewer of the whole playlist, this is why I hope you've stuck around rather than watch the playlist. One of the things that's come up over and over again in the zigzag task is how to kill an ant, or maybe remove a pheromone, remove something from a list that we need to iterate over. So the simulation, I am in the simulation class, right? The simulation will have for a in self, we have a list of ants. And for each of those, I want to say, okay, is it the ant? I'm going to kill, it kills a single ant, so actually I can, this is slightly annoying. Yeah, I could literally do like self.unscorelance.remove the ant is what I would be doing anyway. So let's say I've got like, let's say I'm going to kill an ant at a row as an int and column as an int. So find, that's going to kill all the ants, whatever. This is not helpful. What do I want to illustrate? I want to illustrate the fact that if I want to locate an ant, you could say if a.get row. Those are not like typed, so like type hinted, so I can't get the autocomplete, which is frustrating. If a.get row is equal to row and a.get column is equal to column. This is how you know you're in the same place. You can also, if it's an entity, you could also do a thing. We are going to add to, so this has become kilons. Okay, change of plan, right? Spooning a nest kills all the ants in the cell and wipes all pheromones. Why not? No, let's not wipe all pheromones. Come on, this is not, AQA is not going to stack the deck like this. I'm just making it needlessly bloated. So yeah, this is exactly, they're discussing in the chat what you're doing, which is kind of removing something in my kill-ons, right? For n self-ons, it's it's going to kill all of the ons at this location, row and column, like the nuclear option. This is a fun thing, or you could have something as like as the scientist and just like, so to kill is the empty list, and then if the ont in, as we're iterating over self_ons, which is how we store all of the ons in the simulation, if we find an ont that's in that location, we are going to append it to kill dot append a, and then I need to iterate over to kill, and for each of the ons that have been earmarked for removal, pop them or remove them, self dot single underscore for ons dot remove a, and this is how you do it by ID. So now that I've done this within my new class flying ont, the spawn nest is actually going to do kill ons self. You know what? Like it's the same deal, right? Self row, self column. Elf row. Okay. Oh, sorry. And of course, you will have in the spec update simulation.advance to handle this new flying on to handle flying on correctly. They'll do that, right? Because sometimes some of the stuff will be very specified as like the name of the thing, and then you'll be like, hey, it just needs to work like we said. That's the point. You have to make some choices. And the other thing we want to do is to override and indeed overload the choose cell to move to, except we're going to do a big ugly self simulation. No, what am I doing? Hold on a minute. I know what shape this could take, right? Because like again, if we're doing if we're looking at, oh no, this one is private. Fair enough. I thought this could have been a public that could have been overridden. Is it on nest? Just a little just public because it's going to be nest when it's column. It's the type of amount. I'm guessing how am I doing this? Because choose cell to move to randomly is I need the max row in of the simulation. Do you know what I need to change? So I need to change the signature of this to instead accept number of rows, number of columns. And let's say that no, let's not say that. I would say it will need to kind of like book a net that doesn't have a nest. Yeah, okay. Okay, I didn't put that clause in the right place. Within the grid, within sim. So this is, we are going to replicate some code here to check that we don't have a nest in that location. That happens in the simulation where we're trying not to put like food, you know, two foods in the same cell, or like in the version two nests in the same location, this kind of stuff. You draw something random, which is exactly this, right? And random run it. We're going to use that design pattern because this is the one we need. That's why we need this, right? So in my class, whoops. Control F, not Control D. What am I doing? Flying ont. Don't return the super. No one likes a super, right? Random run int, which I have column, except it's not that. It's yeah, of course. It's a straight up this that we pass as an argument. So this will need, like, our advanced stage of the simulation class will need to pass the same thing. I mean, inspector 1010, or I suppose 10 in binary, right? 8 and 2. What program will we code on for AQA? Is it just Visual Studio? For me in C#, I use VS 2022. Oh, that's good. It's an old one that doesn't have all the CRUD. You assume auto-completion or something will be turned off, etc. So basically raw coding any mistake. I don't know. There's no point making it difficult, right? Like the challenge should be in you identifying what needs to be done in the coding rather than struggling with syntax or like... this is where you get marks for design, because if you get a typo in your code and like you can't pass the test, it's a bit silly. So like they don't want to make it needlessly difficult and raw dogging the ID. This is really a question you should have with, I'm assuming if you're having it at your own school or college, your CS teacher, or trying to find out what your exam center is, and your mileage may vary. At the school I taught at, we taught in VS Code, envisioned in VS Code, but frankly, your options. I think that because you would most likely teach with VS Code at key stage 5, it would make sense. It is an option. This is, I mean, hopefully this should be the idea you've been using all year. That's the whole point, right? Like, that would be super unfair to ask you something there. And like auto completion and whatever. There's notes to the administration of the exam in like the preliminary material, right? They kind of publish it along with it. This is TN for teacher note, and you're like, conduct of the exam, like pencil, paper, ruler, exam. Yeah, okay, we know all of this, but like printing. I mean, they don't have anything. Surely they don't talk about the ID. They're going to talk about the malpractice emergency, like super helpful. Ah, no, we're still printing the Word document. Ah. Okay, are we specifying the ID? No, fair enough. Okay, so I don't know. Like you have the. I'm guessing. Hopefully, it's like, yeah. Idle. I think there's some ID chat in the chat. I would prefer funny over idle. Idle is like really, really old school. Right. So this choose a random cell to move to once, and then maybe we want a random chance. So again, there's if you go look in the place where rendant is being used, this is to like pick a random one to curl. This is what we want, right? Draw a random number, and if it's less than right? Something like this. That's the design pattern for the 20% chance of class flying out. Spawn a nest. So up we draw a random number, which I'm just going to call Renault, like the car manufacturer. And if Renault is less than 50, then less than 20 in that instance, perhaps, we are going to call self dot spawn nest. I knew I needed to pass the simulation. God damn it! Of course, because then yeah. Right, fine. It's fine. You didn't see that, right? So this, okay, so if I say, actually, if I type hit to say simulation, then this will give me simulation.get. We don't have them. Yeah, that's true. They're not public. So this is unlikely to happen. We can't, okay, it can't be the flying ants in the strictest sense, because there is, well, I don't know, unless they decided to architect it differently, but only the simulation knows about how big it is, which makes kind of like classes doing things in random location they cannot access it. There's no getter for that, so we're just going to do like simulation. Is it single underscore number of rows? Probably. Ooh. Single underscore number of rows. Yeah, so this one, right? And simulation dot underscore number of column spawn nest simulation. Cool. Yeah, sorry, this is not indented. It's indented like that. That's done, that's done, that's done. Save it. Let's have a look. Done this, done this, done that. Yes, no. Okay, so class nest. This is where ants are born. This was in the 10 interesting things about the yada yada, which now is at the top of the playlist. In advanced nest, here we have the queen, and we know this is the queen. This is counting the queen. If there isn't a food in the nest, and for each of the queens, we're going to draw a random number and get a 50% chance of laying an egg. And this egg, if it is 2, it's a queen ant. If it is 5, so how do we do a 5% chance, bearing in mind there's like another one? We're going to do an elif here. So this is actually a bit annoying because you're not likely to have, again, this feels needlessly complicated because that's not really about a skeleton code. It's about like kind of, well, I don't know, maybe you'll have it, I don't know, but that would be something between 2 this time equal, and upper would be 7 exclusive. Right, then in that case we're gonna append a flying ant, brand new constructed flying ant with the same stuff, because that stuff is being passed to all of the ants that are born, and it's the coordinates of the nest twice, one to say this is where you are now, and the other to say this is the nest you belong to. That takes care of the last one. And I know the last one to do is actually make that incorporate it into the simulation, particularly its advanced stage. This is the stuff that goes all over the ants, and this is where we're going to have maybe a little problem where we're actually going to say if a dot get type event bracket is equal to flying, then what I'm going to do, I'm going to say a dot get 278. Choose cell to move to. Yes, flying, choose cell to move to. I pass the simulation, and this should just do the job. I don't have to do anything else. Except, of course, bypass the whole rest of the loop. Okay, simulation. Def. Right, where was I? Yeah. Choose cell. I've already forgotten it. Choose cell to move to. Choose cell to move to. Yeah, they're here. Okay. Choose cell to move to, but it's not. It doesn't have the normal signature. I need to pass it the simulation, which is self, and then just hope for the best. Continue, which means I'm going to skip all of this. I'm not even advancing. Do you know what? Actually, I'm going to put this. I am going to. I'm not, you know, I mean, it's nice to have the actual stages working, right? It's still, because the stages of the ant is at the end class, so my flying ant will inherit that. So advanced stage, I might as well kind of run that on. Then why are we passing all of this to self nest? This is interesting as well. That's very sus, right? Like advanced stage in ants takes the whole state of the game. Why would you need the whole state of the game for something that currently I need to find the def. Right, it currently is defined as the entity class with the whole state of the game, because what? Like there's like, because I guess the nest needs it. Yeah, that's right. So they've got it at the super class as well. So that's kind of, well, all it can do. Fair enough. I'll take it back. That's not likely. This is not something that's likely to come up then. Anyway, I was in the simulations advanced stage, which is the best advanced stage. Some might say the best, perhaps in the world ever. Very bad, very bad. I don't know what. Let's not do an impression of the President of the United States on the internet. And that's it. I mean, like, this is just gonna work. Now, of course, this does this. This is perfect. I have done this. Let's have a look at the diff. I started from, well, I'm gonna have the whole spec at the beginning. That's fine. It should be recognize it. Select for compare and then compare it with selected. And the diff is like this. Got my old brief at the top, but your new method Well, okay, I've got my new thing in the simulation class that will kill all of the ants in a given location that uses this trick of kind of first, how do you find that things in the same place? And I think you have like, yeah, you have is in same location if it's an entity, but otherwise you can compare rows and column, and then the old kind of how do you delete from the list by putting it to a deletion list and then iterating over this and using remove. Useful design pattern. Here, you're intercepting the advanced stage, basically. If it's a flight, we've done like this, we subject all of the ants to advanced stage, which is going to advance their age by 1, but then immediately, if we detect a flying ant, we call a very special choose cell to move to that takes the simulation, and then continue, so we bypass all of the rest of the loop. This is the new flying ant class. You get 1 mark for doing this, and probably like another for doing that, right? You're calling the super, and then you're saying the type of event to flying or whatever, there's 2 marks right there. And then we've got the thing they've asked us to do. So this part, because it takes the simulation, I can then call back setup nestat, which existed, and kill ants, which is a new one I created for this. Choose cell to move to with hijacked. This passes the simulation. I'm using type hinting because I like to. And we just draw a random row and column. I've not done the nest one. Okay, I've not done the nest one. So this is how. This is a row. I know there's a 2 and a 4, so I'm going to start in 2, 4. While, okay, so there's in the simulation class, you have, I might want to be in here for that. In the simulation class, there is something called, is nest in cell? Get nest in cell. So this is going to do something or not, right? But it's at a cell. Oh, god damn it. Okay, get index, but in the simulation class for this. How do I do this? It has the simulation class for it, doesn't it? Yes, it has a simulation class. I can just get index. Yeah, I can do whatever I want. I got a simulation class in the, as an argument. So if I go back here real quick, why not? Ooh. Okay. Let's have a look at one of those whiles I'm thinking about to detect collision, right? Well, when it's column control, that's not quite what they have. Now they have something like, yeah, this is good, right? Yeah, that's a better way to do it. I don't have to do is nest and cell. I can use kind of go over all of the nest, except not the nest of this, but the nest of the simulation that are passed to my method flying ant dot choose cell to move to, which is this. I'm going to do allowed equal false, allowed start at false, and then while not allowed, draw the random ones. Oh, sorry, assume allowed to be true. So assume we get them good ones, because if we don't get into a collision, we are good. But we draw the random row and column, then we iterate over all of the nests, which should be here, and this should be here. It's not self nest, though, it is simulation. The underscore nest. We iterate over all of the nests in the simulation, and then if the current nest, any of those nest thing allowed flips back to false. Otherwise, don't need this. So this will fly to a cell that doesn't already have a nest, and then have a 20% chance of spawning a nest. That's a lot, because yeah, I've stacked it, like I've made like something that was exciting and not exactly the zigzag flying on, but like now the diff is, because I've done, like my spec was quite complicated, I should probably kind of put that online. A flying on that generates on 5% chance of spawning or respawning at all, spawning an ant, will teleport to a random location that doesn't have a nest and every move, and then it has 20% chance of spawning a nest, and spawning a nest kills all of the ants in the cell, including the flying ant. So that requires a whole bunch. This is how it will specify. The top of the thing is the question and sort of like what should it do, and then at the bottom you've got a detailed functional specification of the stuff you need to change. And now the flying ant method is a little bit chunkier, but this is also to showcase like how you detect, collision detection, which they do a lot of in here. I don't know if this is likely, but it's a pattern that appears in the code, so knowing how to reuse it quickly, just like this one as well, to kind of draw a random 20-something percentage chance of happening. It's good to kind of know how to pull that off. What else? Okay. Let's do what is more likely to be a more sensible, smaller question. At 1 hour 02:15, something that is more likely to be like an 8 or a 12 marker, adding cell food for menu using getref. So this is, at the moment, the simulation is all well and good, but like on the long enough, if you keep it running, it will always die. All of the ants die because there's no way of re-injecting food in the simulation. All of the food that's at the beginning, that's it. So how do we fix this? We fix this by making a new file called secd add food, which really I could, we support spaces. When I was young, file names were limited to 8 characters on the DOS, plus a free character extension. Anyway, I'm showing my age. So can we paste the whole original again in there? The actual original, perhaps. But above that, I'm going to do the specification. So currently, I mean, you left some kind of briefing as to what's sensible. Currently, there is no way to add food to the simulation, so it will. So ants always die eventually. Don't we all, to be fair? We want a new menu option that will ask the user for a cell location. Oh shoot, promised myself I would also check signal, just in case someone wants to drop a voice note. No, I got nothing. So check so cell location and drop add food in this location according to the simulation parameters, meaning we reuse whatever, right? So this is probably enough. Like that would be one task. I don't know about the spec, but like kind of let's actually do it. So anything that involves, so this is surely likely to come up, because then if you want to be able to test anything, you might need to be able to have some new stuff. They're likely to have a new menu item, means changing display menu. I wouldn't get, by the way, I think the marks for your NEA, very technical, your non-exam assessment, your coursework, your project, the marks you would know at this stage in the year are the, I think, provisional marks, because it wouldn't have been moderated yet. I don't know. I wonder, you want to make sure it's been moderated, because I know that yeah, not all computer science teachers may have the same view of use of AI, particularly to generate text, as the board, and sometimes you may have a teacher that's more lenient and the board will take a very dim view. This happens a lot. Or I mean, to be even before AI, this was kind of like plagiarism from GitHub, and they're like, okay, 6, add food to cell. So new menu option, we need to display the menu option and add a new menu choice. Edif choice equal 6. This is a nice, like this is very likely to be the 8. I called your predecessors last year were super happy, because I ended up calling the I think at least one of the, like the 6 marker like on the thing, like the evening of, I got like a video of some 6th former doing just being, yeah, Mr. Bird, they were like so chuffed. And yeah, I won't get into, I mean, I welcome those this year as well. This is always warms my heart. Sorry about the sound. Okay, so in here we get, okay, let's use this. I don't know, it probably wants it initialized for some reason in some languages, but this is completely pointless. We're just going to do this, it's fine. And this is just like, we're just going to get this simulation dot, this, the code knows that this simulation is a simulation because we just created it like that. So it's add food to sell, bracket, row, column. Oh, quantity. Oh, interesting. Interesting. I wasn't expecting, I thought the quantity would have been a default. Fine. Quantity. Fine. I'm just, well, it's not going to be the default of the simulation. I mean, I could read it. In fairness, I still have it, right? I could still take simulation parameters bracket 0, 1, 2, 3. Will give me the, fine, you know what, I'm not gonna, whatever. Yeah, let's forget about that for a minute and do simulation parameters, simply bracket 3. That's like the default amount. And unfortunately, this was too simple. Maybe that's the 5. Maybe that's the 5. Like, who knows? Like the curveball, everyone expects input validation. Boom, your 5 is actually at this. This, however, I can test much easier. Remember, a realistic task, the genuine task needs to be testable. The flying on, I'm sorry, that's not testable. You can't have just like, yeah, wait for the random chance for like however many times until like you see the on, then you're refreshing to display the simulation to see whether you have a new nest. Because like, evidently that's not, yeah, there's so many, you've done so many great things that like testing whether all of them are correct. Like, is it the right percentage of birth? You know, is it the right percentage of nest making? Is it like, is the movement done well? It's flying on is not a realistic one. We just wanted something that kind of inherits a new on-sum class. The row and column 0 is no point, but every time they use get cell reference, they kind of initialize them here. So I'm like, you know, when in Rome, do as the Romans. But you're right, in the playlist, whenever I use get cell reference, I don't use them. But I don't initialize row and column as 0 like this really weird code. Not sec_b file, sorry. We're just going to be doing sec_d add food. Yeah, simulation number 1, super. Let's display overall details. We have food in 1, 2, 3, 5, 1, 6, 7. Yeah, no. Okay, add food to cell 6. The row number, I'm going to put it like, say, 4, 4. 4, 4. And then let's display the food details. Yeah, we get 500 food in 4, 4. Boom. Job done. So that's, what, that was like 7 minutes? 6 minutes? Like, everything is laid, like, because you have row, column, it already takes stuff. You already have the public method that just takes row and column, and you have a getter reference that takes row and column from the input. Literally, this is like painting APIs, kind of plugging functions into one another. So it's almost like there's not enough marks there, because you've like not really done anything. You just kind of called the functions that exist already. Yeah, whereas, I don't know, like, a magic aunt that would lay eggs. No, like a new entity that is a, what do aunts eat? Oh, I know what you could have. So aunts will milk, I don't know how they're called in English. Une seconde, mes amis. Oh, aphids. Yeah, that's right. Aphids, which are little insects that feed on, I guess, plant. I'm not really a botanist, but okay. Anyway, like they're like ants will capture and raise and milk aphids for their sort of like a sweet nectar. So you could imagine an aphid subclass that would have to inherit entity and would move randomly on the thing and have a random chance of dropping food every now and then. Let's do it now. Okay. This is a more interesting, because this uses add food to cell. Sorry, for the replay viewer, we are on 24 aphids. Okay. I like this. I like this a lot already. Aphids.py. Okay. Do I still have the whole original in my... Yeah, here. Clipboard. Cool. Right, so the specification would be something like ants are very keen on aphid nectar. This is an actual thing that exists in nature, and based on this, that's enough to say create a new aphid class that inherits the, well, that entity class. Add a menu option to spawn an aphid. I mean, the problem with a fresh new class of that kind, though, suddenly you need to support it in the simulation. One aphid at a time. Can I one aphid at a time? A new aphid class then raise the entity class. Aphids. With a 10% chance of dropping 100 food. Boom, right? That's that. That's kind of a, you know, that's a legit, well, legit, it's probably too complicated for, I don't know, maybe not, who knows. So let's do it. We need to keep track of how many aphids we have in the simulation. So like I've done for, I think, the bird or whatever, like, you know, the things we only have one of, we're going to do self dot underscore aphid equal none. Actually, you know what? I'm going to make it public, right? So that I can have you know what? I'm gonna always display the new thing to say add an aphid. There's some interesting question as to like who takes what board do what. It's absolutely crazy that education in this country has been neoliberalized to the point that, like, what are meant to be standardized exams that, you know, a maths A level, it's meant to be a national exam that, like, every year it happens on the same day, but like there's many different boards that define different flavors of it. How is that even, like, how can that be worth the same thing? Because the fact is, like, some boards are notorious to be ever so slightly harder or ever so slightly easier, and this clearly affects that and the price, right? Because it costs something to like teach this or that exam flavor of exam. Are decisive factor in the school adopting them, and then the teachers and pupils have to kind of to follow along, really. Okay, a new one, a new menu item here. Print 6. Add aphid. Okay, same deal. Elif choice is equal to 6 in between quotes and only 2 equals. Colon, just like this same deal. Row column gets a reference, and this simulation.aphid becomes equal to a new aphid at row column. Now, this class doesn't exist yet, but this does exist, so that's helpful. I'm going to go on to entity and just go class aphid entity colon. So entities in their constructors have kind of like ID, yeah, and start row and start column. So don't need to do anything to the constructor because that's all there is to it. I will have a def advanced stage, I guess. Or choose next cell to move to or whatever. Ooh, okay, yeah, I can't do that. I can't really do that. I'm messed up here because the choose cell to move to, so that belongs to the end class. The problem is because, again, because of encapsulation, like our classes or entity classes don't know how big the simulation is, so they don't know where the edges of the simulations are. And that's kind of quite problematic because, yeah, because why is AFID none, why not list? Because we only have one. So I'm just gonna, we start with none, and if there is one, I'll just hold the reference of my one AFID of the simulation in it, like I did the bird and the storm in the zigzag tasks. But the problem I have is, like, for the AFID to move randomly when it doesn't know like where the edges are, that's why the workaround, that's the only things that moves, is getting past the possible neighbors it could move to by the simulation class. Sorry, cat tail in front of the camera, and there it is. Right, so this stuff here, if you want to donate, there's a PayPal link. I'm not sure if the PayPal QR code, the resolution is big enough to be scannable. I've never used the thing. But the way they move randomly is, in fact, in workaround. Well, actually, the method in question is choose random neighbor from a list of neighbors, right? Which could work. Fine, I'm gonna have to like have this, right? For my AFIDs class. Where am I on AFIDs? So not advanced stage, we're not interested in this. We're actually interested in choose letter from a list of neighbors, not really the one from the strongest pheromone. And just going back, so I'm in 3.1.12, go to the class workaround. This will choose a neighbor in that list that isn't a -1, so that's a legit, where was I, like 3, I was here, I was AFID. Sorry, this is not the same one, obviously. I'm just gonna need, yeah. Okay. I'm gonna need this because I do. And choose cell to move to will simply do self dot. Oh yeah, this is a problem. Choose random neighbor from the list of neighbors, right? And this returns them. I need to rip off. Oh my god, there's so much I need to rip off from the workaround class that, yeah, it's not gonna be, you're not gonna have a new class of something that moves that isn't an OND, because all of the good stuff is not just on OND, but something in workaround. And that was change cell. Well, that's helpful. Yeah, that could have been in a mobile entity class, right? Because that's useful to all. Whatever. I'm not salty. I can work with that. I can work with that. Look, if bad code. It's not the first time I get to fix bad code. Fine. New cell indicator. What the fuck is this? Right, and just like we have used this in the workaround right before we nest it in this, right? So self-change cell, whatever, right? Let's do the same thing, same deal. Index to use is defined here. Okay, well, class AFID. Okay, my class AFIDs, I've got this that I ripped off the OND class, and this that I also ripped off the OND class, and then choose cell to move to is just randomly this, but this were also, sorry, I need to first move, and then I have Renault is equal to random.randint. It's like 199, 99, whatever. Okay, let's again, don't write it when you can like copy and paste it. That's not what I'm after. Well, what's what I'm after? No, it's okay. So it's the last one I'm after. It's towards the bottom. Yes, random randint. Okay, yeah, random randint 0.99, and then if I don't know whatever. Yeah, okay. So class back to the affid class. Yeah, random randint 0.99, and then if no is larger than what did I say? 10%. 10. I still need to pass the simulation. I'm going to be using a public method, but I still need to pass the simulation. Simulation, yeah, in the simulation, an object called simulation, which is an instance of the simulation class. And so the simulation class will have add food to cell of where the affid is, self underscore row, comma, self dot underscore column. I mean, I don't know where to start with Arjunko Lipara 1132 question. Okay, in layman language, what am I looking at? This is a very niche, like one of the sections of one of the papers of one of the boards of one of the subjects of the A level. But maybe you know that. What we're doing here is that we're making an affid class that inherits entity, has some movement code that I've ripped off. It's not a realistic, again, none of those like this exact task, not necessarily a realistic description of an AQA task, but the idea of something that adds the food to cell to the outside, from the outside, or also adds a nest in a cell from the outside, as it were, because those methods are public in the... What do you need? Oh, you need the amount? Are public in the simulation class. I think that's kind of very important. So affid, I have defined all of this. I'm very happy about that, but that still doesn't do anything until I go to the advanced stage. It's time for my... We're almost to 8 p.m. and it's after hours. Okay, advanced stage of the... I'm gonna like stop this pretty soon. Advanced stage of the simulation class. Excellent. We advance the pheromone stage that we had. This is the pheromones, this is the ons, and this is the nest. And at the end of advanced stage, I'm going to say the end of it. The end. Thank you. I'm going to say if self.affid, then I will want to call affid.get choose cell to move to with a this. The first one is this. I'm happy with that, right? Kind of like, except then A is not A, but a feed. And why is this doing that? And self, because it's the simulation. Why? Oh, come on. Argument missing for parameter simulation. Sorry, what? Okay, can we just like... choose cell to move to list of neighbors, which is going to be self.get indices of neighbors of affid. Why are you being an absolute... I don't... Why is this not passing? Thank you. Okay. I don't really understand why this is not neighbors. So neighbors. Yeah, because tomorrow Arjun Olipa, who's a CS undergrad, doesn't know that tomorrow is the A level for the computer science A level. Paper 1. Okay, that's the list of neighbors. Ah, that's the I messed up the brackets. As simple as that. Just sorry. I thought there was something messed up. Right. Okay. So we're here. No. I'm I'm going mad. Okay. I a moment. Okay, let's put. I'm struggling with this for reasons I cannot fathom. Okay, so let's just take this, right? And this is the neighbors, right? Oh, right. No, sorry, that's the problem. Jesus. Okay, yes, of course, it gets a little bit OP, and there's a lot of dot notation because we're not getting the F8, we're getting the self dot F8 of the thing, and then we're passing the self at the end of this. Of course, I need to delete my dumb list. Oof, I thought for a minute I was going absolutely insane. Which ends here, and the comma, and then self. Right, and this, my young friends, should work? Question mark. Okay, let's add an aphid. Well, they're not rendered in get detail, so again, that's like they're all in. I think yeah, adding food, a new entire, probably something with nest. Yeah, something with nest and adding nest. Texas C7D, I think, has got it. Okay, now, okay, 4-4. I got a good feeling about this one. This is not gonna make any visible difference until we maybe advance 10 stages and then notice this food all over the place, except there isn't. So we're gonna advance 10 more stages and then notice this food all over the place, except there still isn't. So we're gonna advance 10 more stages and make this food everywhere, and then there's look, yeah, 106 food, right? Which no, that's gonna be because the aphid only lives 100, so that can't be that. Okay, let's just real quick. I'm just gonna have a little breakpoint here and debug it. Debug. Python debugger, please. The currently active Python file, very kind. Okay, submission number 1. Whoa. Oh, I didn't have focus when I typed 1. Okay. Okay. Right. Add an aphid. Add 4, and then let's advance it by 10 stages. Okay, so he's gonna have to choose some cells to move to. So what I'm gonna do, I think maybe I messed up the, I could imagine having messed the probability. I'm gonna put another one in here. You know what? Okay, what's Arno? Wait, what? Hang on. How did that not don't need this one? How did that not trigger if it could? Ah, here we go. Oh, sorry, I want it here then. Sorry, okay, and then Arno 38. So that's too large. 61, that's too large. I'm gonna disable this one. 79, that's too large. 11, ah, almost. Hey, excellent. So that's gonna add food to the cell at. Wait, what's the main self at 4.4? Well, that's gonna be a bit. Maybe it's kind of like moved around until it's back to 4.4. That's a bit lame. Don't go into it, don't go into it, don't go into it. And then if I display, so do I have like loads of food at 4.4? Well, I mean, do I have 100 food? Yes, okay, 100 food at 4.4. Okay, so it's just like, it was a bait on the random draw. Sorry, I'm just reading the chat. Can you explain what to do once you unfortunately end this live? Which is a section deep to try and do the exact walkthrough. Yeah, and it'd be good to recap because I'm just going to unfortunately end this live. That's good because I think like we're done with the AFID. Look, there is. It depends how like unready, like what are the bits where you're not ready at all. If you're starting from nothing, like nothing at all, I would probably, revise the basic knowledge about OOP because this is guaranteed to be on the section C. And if you can quickly explain that it's composition for these reasons or that it's inheritance because there's some overriding and give examples and stuff, you can paraphrase quite quickly. If you good at section B, there's nothing, but if you're not good enough section B, there's nothing you can practice overnight. Right, like so the stuff that you could do overnight, assuming like your actual coding skills are in the laps of the gods at this stage, because there's like however many hours, we're less than 24 hours in out. I'd say probably like the input validation zigzag task, the some of the stuff to do with the food stat zigzag tasks. Watching the videos about the 10 interesting thing and the mark schemes, and then like getting enough like sleep and protein, and sometimes it's counterproductive to be working until the last minute, like your brain needs a bit of a rest, but also remember there's a whole bunch of stuff to know for like section A. What is a recursive algorithm and like what is a heuristic, and because there's a kind of low mark value questions that are just book knowledge. And then you're going to have some like, some like ridiculous, like the thing I did yesterday or the day before. This is this ridiculous Turing machine trace that took me like 45 minutes. That was worth like 6 marks or something. So point is with this is that the quicker you can like, just spit out of the dome the learny stuff, the flashcard stuff, then the better you are. The more time you can dedicate to the slightly more trickier bits. If you know the program, if you know the program doesn't mean you know it very well. It depends what well and not well is, but like the key things you need to know, and kind of like this would be the classes walkthrough, but with the benefit of hindsight. Okay, so to conclude, at 01 35 59, yeah, fine. It's too late already. I'm already 3 seconds out. Like classes walkthrough. Right, but like with having learned what I've learned about this code over the years, it's good to know that these are the 10 important things to know about the code, like the state of the code, the inheritance diagram, what does what, the meat of the shit really lives in the advanced stage, because this is where the action happens, and it's a bit ugly, but if you take it in section, you're fine. The ants make their own decision vis-a-vis movement, but it's the simulation that makes decisions about moving food from like the ants to the nest, or from the ground to the ants. Section of theory, bubble theory, I suck at, Turing machine. Yeah, the Turing machine one is like absolutely evil, yeah, this is what you should skip, and like it's nice to do at the end if you get the time. We're talking, Jeremy, we're talking about the Turing machine question of 2024 in section A that I did on the stream 2 days ago. If you can program this you'll be just fine. This is certainly true, but it doesn't mean you're shafted if you can't program well. That's the part, like you kind of need some ground knowledge. But ultimately, you won't get to see your papers, right? You won't get to know the details of what you've done. But the things to know are the 10 things, the 10 things? My 10, yeah, the 10 useful things, maybe the list are ants and great pheromone, advanced stage, get the thing. The foods are not objects in their own, they're attributes, so they live in cell, they live in ant, they live in nest. This is how, if you have a look at like one of the streams, I did like a little mini extension question, which was like doing food stats every turn. Yeah, they're all right. Ansem is only half the paper for sure. Yeah, but I mean, you know, there's another third of the remaining half. That's a section B, which is coding. Come on, like the 12 markers are gonna be on the. We've talked about this. Like I can't like give the same answers to like the protection question, because people are not you know familiar with the law and the parasocial relationship. Those would be, yeah, choose cell to move to, advanced stage, birth, feed, and deaths, the random draws, passing list for encapsulation, like just because the state of the game is contained in those lists. Simulation get index versus entity get row get column. This is very useful. This is how you get from this is how you get from a row and column to the index in simulation. And then if you have an entity that's like one of your like grids or nests or cells, if you do get row get column, boom, you know where you are, and so you can find like whatever's at this index and check that something out the same index. Entity in same location actually does that for you. So checking that your ant is at the nest, your ant is at the rival nest, that's not its own nest. And then the list removal design pattern, which is like the one that's in the depths as well as the removal of dead pheromones, which is in advanced stage of simulation. So this is like refers to, those are the timestamp in that other video. I'm not going to kind of go through the code. Look, you're going to be ground at this stage. This is time for you to sort of have dinner and have a good night's sleep, and maybe before you fall asleep, like do some flashcards. But like, I don't think that spending the rest of your revision time on the screen is super helpful. Like the skeleton code is kind of, it is what it is. You can like maybe tomorrow morning just have a little refresher if you're not sitting something, maybe at lunch then. But like what you want to be cementing in your mind is really more the, you know, what are the, I can't remember what kind of book knowledge they have on paper one. Paper 1, section 1 particularly, if I look at 21, right, there's stuff, like there's so many marks on just like parroting out. I don't mean to be kind of rude, but this is a little bit, in fairness, it's a little bit, actually it's a little bit more spicy than this. Recursive, base case in recursive subroutine, components of a stack frame, that's knowledge. And that's knowledge, by the way, there's no knowledge in the operating system. I guess it's when we do stacks, we do stack frames, right? Procedural decomposition, this is like learning about the thing. And steps, record hash to a table, that's hash tables. This is interesting, right? Because that's a 5 marker, and like it's a 5 marks in English, which means you hash, you check for collisions. Advantage of RPNs instead of infix, right? Like this is stuff that's flashcard, and you'll notice in section 8 there's like 6, 11, 14, 15, 16, 17. Out of the total, shit, where's that, like how many marks is section 9 total? 17 out of, well, 17, 20, 2, 4. Well, this was a define actually, so it's 19 out of 23 out of 30, right? So 19 of the, 2/3 of the marks of section A are like stuff that you can revise on flashcard, and you should revise on flashcard. Because if you're stumped and you feel you have to waffle about to kind of find the nice sentence, those are minutes you do not have the luxury of in the actual exam. So my advice is to get away from the screen and like start kind of like, you know, opening the textbook and like copying things into, yeah, kind of writing flashcards, reading flashcards, doing your sort of more book learning thing. Yeah, and then and then get enough sleep, and don't drink too much Red Bull and do too much, like inject peptide into your face. Like apparently we need to be very good about the boys in the manosphere. Look, it was very fun doing this. I will be chilling for the rest, but I will be back doing some streams this weekend for paper 2 because it's not finished, and I can help probably with that in the same principle, kind of doing some more complex stuff and whatever. So thank you all so much. If you'd like to tip, well, the QR code has just disappeared. Break a leg tomorrow, but don't worry because you will have forgotten at 4:30 tomorrow. And then probably will have forgotten after paper 2, but like in a month's time, you'll definitely won't care anymore. So thank you so much, and yeah, break your leg, be strong. Initiated, that is good.